Classical Roots Timeline. October 29th, 1978. The first Classical Roots concert took place at the historic Bethel AME Church. DSO Associate Conductor Paul Freeman conducted, and the concert featured the Classical Roots Chorus, a large ensemble comprising members of the Brazil Denard Chorale and 26 local church choirs. February 21st, 1981. Classical Roots was held at Orchestra Hall for the first time. After outgrowing the packed auditorium of Bethel AME, the third Classical Roots concert took place at Orchestra Hall. February 6, 1983. At the fifth annual Classical Roots concert, Isaiah Jackson conducted the Midwest premiere of Undine Smith Moore's oratorio, Scenes from the Life of a Martyr. Moore attended the concert and was presented a key to the city by Mayor Coleman A. Young. February 14th, 1988. DSO Associate Conductor Leslie B. Dunner conducted Classical Roots for the first time. Dunner went on to conduct Classical Roots every year through 1999. 1990. Three significant milestones in the history of Classical Roots. Classical Roots was added to the DSO Classical Subscription Series in the 1989-1990 season, making history as one of the first orchestras in the country to include a classical series program dedicated to highlighting music composed and or performed by African Americans under the musical direction of a Black conductor. The African American Fellowship was inaugurated, allowing young musicians to get hands-on experience performing with the orchestra, practicing for auditions, and receiving mentorship from experienced players. The African American Composers Forum was inaugurated, raising the prominence of several composers and inspiring the African American Composer Residency. February 17th, 2001. The Classical Roots Celebration, a black tie fundraising gala and presentation of a Lifetime Achievement Award to Classical Roots honorees, was inaugurated. The first honoree was Pulitzer Prize-winning composer George Walker. March 2nd, 2002. DSO resident conductor Thomas Wilkins conducted Classical Roots for the first time. Wilkins went on to conduct Classical Roots every year through 2009, and he was named an honoree in 2008. February 19th, 2005. The DSO commissioned a new work, Dear Mrs. Parks, for Classical Roots, where it received its world premiere. The piece, fully titled Dear Mrs. Parks, The Road to Musical Inspiration, was composed by Hannibal Lokumbe, who was also the 2005 honoree. March 6th, 2009. Dear Mrs. Parks was performed again and released on CD, thanks to sponsors and funds raised by the Chair's Circle of Friends. March 7th, 2015. Joseph Striplin was named a Classical Roots honoree alongside Judge Damon Keith. Striplin, a violinist, remains the first and longest-serving African-American musician hired by the DSO. He served in the orchestra from 1972 to 2020. March 3rd, 2017. The DSO commissioned a new work for Classical Roots, Detroit 67, where it received its world premiere. The piece was composed by Terence Blanchard and was a Classical Roots jazz tribute. It was created in conjunction with the citywide Detroit 67 project, spearheaded by the Detroit Historical Museum in collaboration with Marlo Stoudemire, who also served on the DSO Classical Roots Steering Committee. The work was created to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Detroit's Summer of Civil Unrest in 1967. 2019. Classical Roots is renamed to the Arthur L. Johnson Honorable Damon Jerome Keith Classical Roots Celebration. Composer in residence with Jonathan Bailey Holland, whose piece Forged Sanctuaries, String Quartet No. 2, was performed at a chamber recital at Plymouth United Church of Christ. Holland also visited classrooms to speak to Detroit schoolchildren. 2020. Composer in residence Nkiru Okoye's DSO commission work, Black Bottom, premiered during the annual Classical Roots concert. Black Bottom was inspired by Okoye's research trip to Detroit prior to writing the work. During that time, she met with historians and toured locations important to the story of Detroit's historic Black Bottom neighborhood. 2022. Nazir McFadden, DSO's youngest assistant conductor, leads his first Classical Roots concert. Composer in residence Quinn Mason's work, Toast of the Town, Overture, was played on the Classical Roots Coffee Concert. Mason's works were also presented at the chamber recital at Plymouth United Church of Christ. 2023. Principal trombone Ken Tompkins and composer Carlos Simon premiered the DSO commissioned work of Troubled Waters for trombone and orchestra. 2025. Chris Johnson premieres Marlowe's Wings, a tribute to the late Marlowe Stoudemire, who served on the Classical Roots Steering Committee for 6 years until his passing in 2020. 2026 marks the 25th anniversary of the Classical Roots celebration and honors Kenneth Tompkins, Shatrice Gillen, and all former steering committee co-chairs. Thomas Wilkins returns to conduct. 2028, Classical Roots celebrates 50 years of music, community, and impact.